All right, welcome to the F&O meeting tonight. Present here, we have Bump Rodney and we have Tommy Atkins, council members. Call to action again tonight. The first thing we're going to consider is applications for Planning Commission, Board of Zoning Appeals, Rock Hill, York County Convention, Visitor Bureau, and York County Forever. Do I have some motions?
I want to defer Derek Williams on the Planning Commission. I want to defer Antonio Michael on the Zoning Board of Appeals for my district.
Okay, so we'll do one at a time? Yeah, let's do one at a time. So the first one, planning zoning.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Against? All right. Ayes have it. And the zoning Board of Appeals.
I want to defer Antonio Michael.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Yes. Ayes have it. Okay.
All right, so for the Convention and Visitors Bureau, it looks like District 1, Indira Esquiva for her first term.
Okay.
Second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And for District 3, Porter Gable.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is for her second term.
Okay.
And also David Angel for District 6.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the one we need to skip. This next one.
Okay. All right, so we'll go ahead and skip that one.
Wait a minute, is this the one, then we said we was gonna just go ahead and kick this one out? And
Yeah,
not-
I think-
Not defer, just go ahead and deny this one and open it back up?
Well, at this point right now, I think Michael was gonna have some conversation around this. Maybe at this point, we go ahead and just do a deferral on this one here. We can just
Yeah.
go ahead and, because I think Michael had some comments around this.
Well, we can defer it, but I'm not gonna be supporting this person whether he say that they can serve or not. So-
Okay, yeah, I mean, if you guys wanna go ahead, just go
Cause
forward with your motion.
this name has been up, earlier, something surrounding, so it hadn't gotten worked out now, we don't wanna just keep a
Mhm.
vacant spot, so it would be my recommendation that we just go ahead and bounce Brian Jones from consideration to consider new applicants going forward.
Okay, do I have a second on that?
Yeah, I guess so. Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right,
Shia Maple for her second term.
okay.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right.
The next one is Natalie Hoekstra.
So this one, we're just moving her to a different seat. Currently, she's in an at-large seat,
Mhm.
and Mr. Litton is fine with moving her to the District 2 seat. Terms won't change, nothing will change, just the seat she's
Just the
serving
seat
in.
itself.
So is
Okay.
this a reappointment to that seat, or is it?
Just moving her. She's not up for reappointment yet.
So there'd still be a motion to move, though?
Correct.
Right.
We do need a motion.
Does her
Okay.
time, will her time start over in
No.
this new seat?
No, everything will stay the same. She'll
Okay.
just change the seat.
Gotcha.
Okay.
All right, so we'll recommend that we move her to the District 2 seat.
Okay,
Second.
all right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
This is the same thing we're doing with this one. Mr. Hutchison would like to be moved to the District 5 seat, and Christie is okay with that.
Okay.
Now, this is a new term for him, so it's a reappointment for his second term, but he'll be in a different seat.
It is Harum Hutchison
Yes.
for consideration for the District 5 seat.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, ayes have it.
And the at-large seat is Lamar Thompson, second term.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it.
Now, let's, just for the record, so with Hutchison being a new seat, going into, when they served in an at-large and now going to a district seat, it's still, the clock is still ticking on the amount of terms that they can serve, correct?
Correct.
Okay, just want to
Yes.
make sure that's
It doesn't
correct.
start
Yeah.
over, nothing. He keeps the
Gotcha.
same. Yep.
Same time frame.
Yes.
Right, exactly. Okay. York County Forever?
We would like to recommend Dawn Posey for the first term, for a first term.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And that's
Ayes
for
have it.
District 1. And there's a vacancy in the ex officio category for Jennifer McAdams, first
Second.
term.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. All right. Okay, so we have some motions here for allotment of funds, so we can go forth and do the motions.
You read them or you want to read them, Bill?
So I'm on a roll here. New member to the committee, y'all put me to work early.
That's it, man.
All right, to consider, committed to consider allocation of funds from District 3 to Area 11 Special Olympics in the amount of $2,000.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it.
Committed to consider allocation of funds from District 3 to Bethany Volunteer Fire Department in the amount of $1,500.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Committed to consider allocation of funds from District 5 to Carson's Compassion Project in the amount of $2,500.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
Committed to consider allocation of funds from District 5 to Area 11 Special Olympics in the amount of $1,500.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Ayes have it.
So that's from District 5 for Special Olympics and 3. Does District 4 need to get some funds too?
If you want
If you
to.
want to.
If
you want to.
All right. I'll check that out.
There you go.
All right.
All right, so we need a motion for approval of minutes from December 16th.
All right. Motion to approve December 16th Finance and Operation Committee meeting.
So have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, ayes have it. All right, follow-up discussion regarding local vendor preference.
Okay. It's been a couple months since we discussed this, and the committee, well, it's a new committee, 2 of the members were present at the last discussion about this, and our thoughts was basically bump what we've done over here, and this is the same presentation that everybody looked at the last time this was discussed in November. And would like to give you an opportunity to go through that if you got any questions about anything. That, you know, we've slept since then. If any questions, any issues concerned, we can talk about that. The last direction we were given back in November was for staff to come back and make a recommendation. Now, I'm going to give you all a recommendation, a very high level verbally of what we're looking at and talking about right now, but I really wanted to give this new committee an opportunity to review that and get back to staff on, yeah, we're ready for a written recommendation on this, or let's hold up and let's discuss this again in a little more detail. My feeling is at the next meeting I can go and give you that recommendation in writing. I don't think there's really a lot that's up in the air about this. The council has spoken very clearly on this, and I think staff has heard what the recommendation's been, and sort of at a high level, what we're looking at right now is where there's some key elements. The vendor is going to need to be able to demonstrate that they're truly a local vendor. What I mean by that is that they're paying property taxes on property in this county. If we've got no history of them paying taxes, if they didn't pay their last tax bill over here, we have some issue whether or not they're may or may not a vendor. But we would put in the recommendation some key elements to make sure that we can verify they are a local vendor. Okay, and that's basically going to be defined as operating, have a physical location in this county. Okay. Paying taxes in the last year, not just opened up last month. There's going to be a criteria, 12, 24 months, something like that. If they're a local vendor, they're going to have the opportunity to match the low bid if it's not a local vendor. And right now we're looking at a 5% match to start off with. As the dollar amount gets bigger, we're going to taper that percentage down, and we might have a max dollar amount, okay? Because 5% on $10 million, for instance, is probably not reasonable. But, you know, we've looked at some examples here recently where we've had, let's say, a $3 million bid and $50,000 difference. We want to make sure we would pick some of those items up. So we're going to have, again, percentages will stagger, and ultimately there will be a max dollar amount as well in line with that recommendation.
Okay.
So those are sort of the key elements of the recommendation that we put forth to y'all. Now, with all that said, I want to give in particular Bump a chance to ask any questions he might have about this.
I'm going to start off with a statement saying how damn proud I am to get to this point, because this is one of the things I brought up
We drug
years
Bump here.
ago.
We drug him here.
years ago, and I'm glad to see that we have some new fresh blood on council, new fresh blood on staff who wants to see this happen. I mean, I don't know if it wasn't any convincing on my part, but somebody else had to get the rub to say, we need to do this, because apparently me kicking and screaming for years wasn't enough. I guess I need to go out on a stretcher or something to get people's attention, but it's good to get to this point, because I do think it's important that we keep as much money, because we spend a lot of money.
Yeah,
We
do.
spend a ton of money, and the more that we can keep inside our borders, it's a benefit to everybody.
Yeah.
And I think the only way that we can grow our local vendors is to show that we have an interest in keeping them here. You know, keeping the money circulating. So I think once we get this started and it gets out, more people will start to want to participate in the bid process. I think it can only snowball and get bigger and more interest of people putting in bids with us. One thing I would like to know is, especially like if Rock Hill would give us their numbers, how many times have they gotten to the point where they've utilized the local vendor preference in the last how many ever years they want to give it to us? Because it's one thing to have something in place, it's another thing that it never gets used. You never hit that mark. And so that'll be something interesting to even help convince other members on council to support. Say, hey, whether it's Rock Hill, whether it was whoever, they got this local preference and they've been able to utilize it 5 times, 10 times, 50, whatever that number is. It may be a big number, it may be a small number.
I'll ask Tier to put together, so try to pull that data. If you look through there's some comparisons with other counties, and I think you've got out of the top counties, and I forget which slide it's in there, who are using it, some that aren't using it, and then you've got one that was using it and backed away from it because they felt like they weren't getting the right amount of competition. And the balancing act we're going to try to do with those percentages is, you know, the free market's a wonderful thing, and we want to always support that. And so we don't want to do anything that would discourage vendors to turn out and bid on our work.
Right.
And that's that balancing act, you know, because I think what Councilman Ryder described is the most beautiful mix, where we actually have an increase in vendor participation in our bids, because competition is what only drives prices down, and we get the best value for our taxpayers. So we're going to try to, you know, Tierra's pulled together a lot of data points on who uses it, who doesn't use it, and the success and where the percentages are at. We're going to try to hit the sweet spot for York County to make sure we don't drive away competition, but we do what we can to support our local businesses as well.
Okay, no, that's good. Good discussion, Bum. Tom, what do you got, buddy? In regards to any comments on this at all, or thoughts?
No, I mean, I've always said I think local needs to get it
As much as
before.
Yeah.
It needs to stay local and then in the state before it ever goes any further out, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, agreed.
So we'll plan on
Agreed.
having a written recommendation for y'all
Yeah.
at the next FNO meeting then.
Yeah, so a couple things on this. So I first of all, thanks for putting this together. I know that we just got it, so we're going to need time to go through and kind of chew through it and figure out, you know, the direction. I think a couple of things that come top of mind that I'd like to see, y'all, is that first of all, what do other municipalities do? What are other counties doing in order to, you know, address the same type of need? And again, it may be all incorporated in here, but I want to have that open-ended discussion the next time we have a chance to kind of swallow.
So you want to go ahead and rehash it at the next meeting again a little bit before we provisionally
That's
vote?
right. Yeah,
Okay.
I
We'll
do
do
want
that.
to talk about that, because I want to understand specifically, you know, how some of these other counties are approaching it and municipalities are approaching it. So I think, you know, sometimes it's not always recreating the wheel. There's some value in
Yeah.
some processes that are currently going on. And the other thing too is that I would like to hear from some local vendors. All right, some contractors.
Those are coming in?
Yeah, having them come in and making a couple comments in regards to what is their process and how, you know, what have they seen in other counties and how they've approached things. I would like to get their general feedback. Again, it can be very specific in questioning, but I think it would be valuable to hear some feedback from some of the local contractors. And you can chew on this for a bit,
Yeah, I
but this
think
would be a directive. I'd
just
like
some
to-
of my initial comments on that. I don't want to bring in a specific vendor. What we could do is reach out, like, you know, Jim Britton.
Mhm.
He's dealt across various counties and he's familiar with a lot of these, what different entities have. we'll maybe reach out to some, but leave the names generic. I don't want to
Sure.
do anything that might put a vendor in a bad position going forward. If, for instance, somebody can challenge and say,
Mhm.
look, this ordinance was done for their benefit. They came in
Mhm.
and spoke to it.
Yeah.
So I want to make sure we don't do anything that could potentially make us look like we're favoring one particular guy.
Yeah.
So we'll try to reach out to some contractors that we know do regional work, not just in York County, but in other areas,
Yeah.
and try to get some input from them. I'll try to grab as random lists as I
Okay.
can to make sure, we're not just picking one side or the other on this topic, but we'll get some input on that, and I'll try to get some statements or maybe some bullet points on what vendors and contractors say in general regarding the local vendor program.
Yeah, and I'm not asking for specific names of these companies they're giving. I'm just looking for general feedback back based
Sure.
on a set of questions.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
You
it
know.
could be as simple as a survey.
Yeah, very much so. Right.
I think, with any policy, it's important to have engagement and education.
Right.
And so I think part of this is thinking about, okay, once you do update the policy, how does our staff educate local vendors
Mhm.
in their opportunities? Because a lot of times people might not know how to fill out the application or to bid,
Correct.
how to do that. So we've got to have programs that help teach that. And that was part of the strategic plan initiative. It was to look at this overall program.
Right.
So there's the policy, then there's the engagement and education. And I would say potentially, Kevin can work with purchasing to develop a survey to send out, an anonymous survey for feedback or something like that. There might be a mechanism where we've got a list of people that we can engage anonymously.
What I'm going to try to focus on in this list, and we've got a list of vendors in there we'll pull from, are again the more regional vendors, so they can tell us what they'd like to see in York County, what they like and don't like about other places they do business in.
There you go.
Because I think, if there's some
There you go.
information, some criticisms of this,
Right.
you'd want to hear about that as well. The only way to know that would be to get a vendor that does work in other counties that has this preference.
Right.
So we'll try to grab a sample of vendors that do work inside and outside of York County.
Okay.
And we'll come up with some very, generic questions. What do you like about local vendor preferences? What are problems that you've encountered with local vendor preferences?
Mhm.
What are things that you think would be the best practices around local vendor preferences that we can incorporate in our
Sure.
ordinance?
Yeah, I think that's a very
Okay.
practical approach, and
All right.
I just want to make sure we're gathering, the feedback from, many different groups. But again, from not knowing the companies, but knowing the general response back to the question.
So we'll put that together I'll add that to the presentation that y'all were given
Okay.
in November, and we'll just sort of go through all of that again, because, that's
Sure.
got a list of the counties that do and don't do it and other information. So we'll sort of do a high-level rehash, as much detail as we need to, incorporating in again, the additional feedback from regional vendors as well in the
Absolutely.
presentation. Yes, sir.
Yeah, this is a great opportunity. I think that this shows that the value of what we're trying to do in York is to keep it in York and try to value the people that are here first. And when we have opportunity for them, again, and as Bump very well spoke about this, I think that there is a huge opportunity, and I'm excited that we're going down this road. So this is very good.
Josh, could I make an additional suggestion? If the program gets implemented, I think economic development or the economic development committee, but more so the department, can have a role too, because they are eager to help with the outreach
Yes.
for small businesses, because there's
Yeah.
obviously more in contractors. You have small vendors who may provide us with commodities, food, all kinds of things, but ED is eager to serve in that role, and I'm sure would be pleased to partner with procurement and educating folks.
Yeah,
Get as wide a net as possible.
I would 100% agree on that.
I had a conversation, it's been, I would say, a while back. As far back as when Bill was here, then Tierra took over. When contractors or vendors are bidding on bigger projects, about asking them, hey, show us what you intend to use locally. Because a lot of these bigger projects, they can't bring everybody in, but if there's a plan to use this particular electrical company, this particular sheetrock guy, this particular local painter, some things is not worth those guys hitting the road to come here to stay in a hotel for 3-4 months for. And so we'll just pick that up local. But if there's a plan out of a X number of million, a couple $100,000 contract, and they say, hey, yeah, our thing has been in the past, we find local painter, local electrician, local whatever. Obviously, if they got dumpsters, they're not bringing dumpsters with them up the highway, but there are certain things local with certain big jobs that they just not going to bring with them. And so there's a local work plan inside of that contract where they're demonstrating, hey, we're going to use out of $5 million. Oh yeah, there's probably $500,000 or so that we're going to use locally. I think that's always good to kind of help foster some of that. Hey, yeah, they're watching what we're going to put back or who we're going to utilize locally.
For subcontractors.
Yeah. I know during the 2016 bond referendum, I think this you're referring to, Bob, we had a program in place where we had classes for local vendors to try to help them submit their proposals to the big general contractors. The classes, and we had some of the big general contractors try to work with us on the local vendors. First meeting was a decent attendance, and I think it dwindled from there. But that is something I think we always want to continue to try to do to make our local vendors as competitive and to help them along as best we can. And that'll piggyback into your, what is it, your toolbox thing?
Yeah.
Back on that.
Yeah, exactly. I think the Economic Development Committee I think there is synergies around what we're doing and then moving forward.
Excuse me for interrupting. You can also add a requirement in RFP that they disclose local vendors and itemize or list those if you like.
Okay.
Well, I know for a fact. I read a lot, especially about old towns and whatnot, but it's been a proven fact that one of the main reasons that old towns and small communities used to work so well was because it was made up, the businesses and all were made up of the local people and all. And we've really got away from that with so many franchises and different stuff coming in. And a lot of times it actually pushed the local businesses out, the local restaurants, the people that owned it and all. And all that money now goes to corporate headquarters somewhere. And small towns like York and a lot of the smaller ones are dying because you either got to have an interstate or something close by to really get the impact from the bigger businesses. So these local towns, they end up with just some small franchise restaurants or something and no.
Yeah. Well, I think, but I agree with Tom, and I think we're moving in that direction now with this initiative of what we're doing through economic development, the toolkit, etc. So I think there's a lot of opportunity, a lot of synergies. So good discussion, you guys. Great discussion. Finance update.
Okay, so you've got in front of you the months of August, September, and October. It's actually been a little while since we've had a finance update. So good news is fiscal year 25 so far, there's been no surprises to date. That's always a good thing. You know, one of the things that we've been harping on, and going to continue to do that, is the vacancy rates. So for August, for the sheriff's office, that was 6.9%. General fund other was 6.7%. And then that's upticked the last couple months to where in October with the sheriff's office, we're currently at 8.7%. And general fund all other is 7.3% when it comes to our vacancy rates. So, you know, just as everything we've talked about before and we've had that conversation, it's just that continues to be somewhat of a struggle when it comes to York County. As Josh alluded to your last budget workshop, we are starting to work on those pieces for the FY26 budget. And right now, you know, the big property taxes, all the first due date was January 15th. So over the course of the next couple months, we'll really start analyzing all those revenues so you know, we can start to develop that new value of a mill and all that kind of stuff going forward.
Yep.
You mentioned the 15th date. Generally, about how much on a percentage basis, just rough estimate, how much comes in on time versus annually being paid late? Any idea? Just ballparking.
About 5%, I think.
I think Kevin's right.
5%, then you get some more that you got another big penalty of 15%. And there are some people that just insist on waiting till the very last day before tax sale because they don't want the government to hold their money, which I will encourage anybody listening to this that is not a good investment strategy at all to incur those penalties.
So
It's
yeah,
best
there
to
are
pay it
two
on
more
time.
penalty dates. One is in February and one is in March. Then the end of March, what happens is if nobody's paid by the end of March, they consider what it rolls delinquent. And then when it rolls delinquent, that's when that tax sale process starts. And that's usually sold that following fall, either, you know, October, November time frame. Usually though, the last couple of years, I will say that number has dwindled down to where it's usually, I think, in the 200, 300 property range, and we've been pretty consistent right around there these last couple of years.
So some of the, we're continuing to improve our online services, right? To be able to answer questions online, et cetera. So how do you feel the approach of our online expansion to automate things more? Do you start to see some traction with some of the activity we're looking at, or are we too soon to really evaluate?
I will say post-COVID, we've really seen electronic payments go up.
Mhm.
And I mean, that's continuously stayed steady. Now,
Yeah.
there's still going to be people that mail in a check, right? I mean,
Mhm.
we're always going to have that, but I will say
Yeah.
consistently that uptick has been through online payments since COVID.
But you don't see it, and he mentioned it's been consistent.
Yeah.
There's some people that want to come in to pay, there's some people that write a check,
Right.
and then those that are paying
Right.
online, and we don't see like that online stuff increasing. It's
Yeah.
been pretty steady since COVID.
Okay, good. All right, guys, any questions at all, anyhow?
Yes, sir.
All right. All right, well, listen, I think we are right at the end of our agenda. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
I thought we was waiting on my.
Motion to adjourn.
No, you went through it.
denied it.
You denied it.
You did
Oh,
away
okay,
with it.
yeah.
You
Okay.
took care of
Yeah.
it.
Hey, fuck
Yeah.
my job a little easy.
Yeah, you already,
Motion to adjourn.
okay, second?
Starting to come down.
All right, all in favor?
All right.
Yes, ayes have it.
Thank you.
There you go. Thank you.